Well, Jordan, you did a great job today.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really enjoyed coming to your class and watching you do your small group and watching the kids doing Daily 5. I think you've really improved over the last 2 years because I know Daily 5 has been a little bit of a struggle in the past, but I think today was great. The kids were, I was walking around and seeing work on writing, and the kids were all engaged and doing what they needed to be doing. And then I walked around and saw Zoe over here, and she was doing sight words over here, and then you had your lesson here. And so it was really great to see all the kids engaged. I didn't really see anybody not engaged, which was great. So let's talk about it, and I want to hear what you think about it. How do you think it went?
Pretty good. I had a few students I had to redirect a little bit,
Yeah.
but as soon as I redirected them, they did what they needed to do.
Yeah, and I think that's good. You were monitoring, and I noticed that, and so every once in a while I noticed that you were like, what are you supposed to be doing? Where are you supposed to be? And so, and then you redirected them really well. And so, so what were you hoping for the students? Because you had a group here, and we'll talk about them in a minute. What were you hoping for the students? What do you want them to get out of their Daily 5 instructional time? Because this is instructional time. It's not just play. We tell them all the time. It's not. It's instructional time. It's fun, but it's still work time. So what were you hoping for them to get out of their instructional time?
With Daily 5, I always want them to be independent. I want them to learn how to figure out problems by themselves, problem solve. And then also, like, in our writing station, like, making sure, like, when they're making up a sentence by themselves, I want to see that, like, sentence structure in capital letters, finger spaces, things like that.
So you're connecting it to our other teaching that we're doing, so our writing. And how are you connecting it to, like, phonics and Haggerty? And I saw some of that, but how are you connecting it, like, in work on writing to some of our curriculum?
So I use our Saxon tracing little letters.
Yeah.
Especially with D, because we have D this week, and that's really hard for them to figure out D and B. So having them do that, and then figuring out words that start with D or start with B over there in writing station too.
Yeah. So that's good. So you're reinforcing some of the other things. So they're not just doing random things but they're reinforcing, because I saw Zoe over here working on sight words and very good. How do you group your
based on
levels? So you level them out,
low, medium, high.
And how and this was great when you were working, not one of them came up to you and bothered you. So how do you monitor, like, if they have a problem, how do you have them help themselves? How are they so independent in working? How do they work out their problems independently?
They either already know what to do if they come up to a problem, or I have 4 leaders, and they can go ask one of the leaders, and the leaders usually, I pick them so that they know the leaders know all the things that they need to do.
That's great. Very good. Very good. So let's talk about your small group time. And so during your small group time, I could tell you had a lower group that you were working with. How do you feel that went?
I think it went good. They're slowly starting to get it. I'm having to, I can't remember I know it's decoding, but they're not understanding, like, how to decode the full word, and so I'm having to go back and do the first 2 letters we sound out together, sound that out, and then add the ending, because they're able to sound out all the letters, but then when they go back, they can't get that. Sometimes they miss that initial sound or that end sound, so they're getting it.
Yeah. How did you adjust your responses? How did you, adjust your instruction based on their responses? And I saw some of that, but so as they were going, some of them were struggling a little bit. How did you adjust that?
So if I saw they're still struggling with those 3-letter words, I went back to the 2-letter words, and we worked on the 2-letter words a little bit more, and then having them gain that confidence in the 2-letter words, and then slowly going back to the 3-letter words.
Very good. And how do you pick your words?
Either from a book that we've read before, or just things that pop in my head that I know that they might get because I want to try to build that confidence with them.
Very good. And so are you gathering evidence are you gathering the data during this? Are you writing it down? Do you have a notebook that you keep the evidence
Yeah, I have
in?
a small group notebook, and I write down each day which groups I pulled and what we did.
Okay, so you're keeping track of. Good. Very good. Very good. So what instructional focus guides your small group practice? So how do you determine, in other words, what you were going to work on in small group that day?
Based on like the ESGI stuff, so our data that we've done, what they're struggling with. It just depends, because I have some friends that they can read a whole book by themselves, and if they can read the whole book by themselves, we're like working on harder books or bigger words or writing sentences by themselves. So just based on level and based on what they need that extra practice with.
Very good, yeah. And are you using Haggerty books or using Saxon books? What kind of materials are you using?
I use both, and then I also use the Natalie Lynn decodables. But the group I had today, they just were not ready for that yet. But my higher groups, I'll either use the Saxon or the Haggerty.
Yeah, so we're in
Saxon, Haggerty, or the Natalie Lynn.
So you're introducing that curriculum still back in there. Yeah, very good. So how do you think your classroom routines, let's move a little bit to your classroom routines. How do you think your classroom routines support both your small group and your independent workers? Or do you think they support them? I think they did. I think you did a great job because when I walked in, they were already in the middle of it, and they were all doing what they're supposed to do. So how do you think you have built those classroom routines to support their learning? We go over them, the classroom routines. Like anytime I see that we're struggling, we'll go back over them. Like in my slides, I have the anchor charts in between each of my slides in case, like, if I see they're struggling with that. In that round, we'll go back and sit on the rug and we'll go back over the expectations that they're supposed to be doing. And then I do my doorbell, and usually if they're talking a lot or off task, I'll send them back to the rug and they'll try again, and then I'll restart my time because I want them to be able to fully work the minutes that I have for them. Good. So what role do you think classroom culture plays in sustained engagement? So good classroom culture, what role do you think that plays in them working the whole time? As opposed to, I guess, bad classroom culture.
Yeah. I think it matters a lot about your classroom culture because
and maybe think back to how Daily 5 used to be in your classroom and how it is now.
Yeah, a lot of
what do you think the difference is?
Routines and procedures.
Yeah, and building that classroom culture.
Having to go over things over and over and over again, or having them redo things over and over and over again until they got it. And then having those leaders too.
Because you didn't have those leaders last year, did you?
I didn't think of that idea last year, and I had a bunch of friends coming over to me during small group.
Yeah. Do you think it's made a big difference in your class culture? Yeah, I think so too. And I think it's helped you a lot too because you're a lot less stressed out than you were because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're not bothering you a lot. I think that's been a great idea. I really like that. Yeah, that's been a great. Have you implemented any other strategies? Like, are the anchor charts new? Them coming back and
that's new. And then ringing the doorbell, and coming back to the rug. If they're talking or off task, that's new from last year. I didn't do that last year.
Is the timer new as well?
The 1 minute one is whenever they clean up. They only have 1 minute to go back to the rug. That one's new because they take forever to clean up
if you don't have
a timer.
Yeah, I like that too because they really all seem to come back. They were really in your, and I liked how you were encouraging them a lot. You did a great job of saying you can do it. You're almost there. Let's see if we can all get there. It wasn't like you better do it. It wasn't. And you did a great job too of when they were in small group of really encouraging them to say, awesome, good job. I wrote yeah, you have 1 minute to be on my rug. Good job. Good, great job. Awesome job. Thank you for following the rules. Like, you had a lot of positive reinforcement on here. And like under classroom culture too, like here, this was your low group, and oftentimes low groups, they feel like they're going to get it wrong. But your low group was really, they weren't afraid to take risks.
Yeah.
They knew they might get it wrong. But your one little guy right here, it was so cute because the one guy right here, she could not get the letter, and he was like, it's on his shirt right here. And he was helping her out. Yeah. And I think she even still got it wrong, but they were okay. It was, they were very comfortable with you. So you had a really good, really, really good classroom culture, which I thought was great. So what stood out to you, I think, is as you reflect on your teaching, your instruction, your classroom management, what do you think, and it could be all of those things, what do you think is the biggest strength that you have right now?
I would say having all the students on task, because I feel like that's really hard. And I might have like one or two stragglers here and there.
Yeah, and there's always going to be a behavioral or...
but it's something I really struggled with last year, is making sure they were on task and doing what they were supposed to. And then also like being quiet, like quietly working, like independently. And they might talk, like writing station sort of talk sometimes, but I told them if they're talking about what we're learning about and what we're writing about, then it was okay. But just independently, like working quietly, not needing my help is like my goal for them.
Yeah, I think you've improved so much on that. Yeah, very good. And so let's go back to Dilley 5 for just a minute too. What do you think, what Dilley 5 center, what evidence do you see like coming back later in the day, or maybe they were in work on writing and now coming back to writing? Do you think that being in work on writing is helping their writing? Like, have you seen evidence of that? And being in read to self or word work, do you think it's helping them? Are you seeing evidence of we're having high engagement and that's great, and they're quiet and that's great, but are you seeing evidence of them?
I would say so,
yeah. What evidence do you think you're seeing?
For work on writing, they're always making up their own sentences. So like today we were just writing on our whiteboards during writing time, like after we were done with our little lesson that we had, and I had them go back and they were practicing their letters and just writing any words that they could think of by themselves and any sentences they could write by themselves. And I had one little girl, she wrote like 4 sentences all by herself, and all the letters were correct, all the like no reversals of letters. And so I think work on writing has really helped with that, and thinking of sentences by themselves, and being able to come up with those. And then writing their sight words, seeing that whenever I go back and test them on their sight words, they know the ones that I have in that box because they're constantly writing them or doing what they do in the word workstation. And then read to self, they're able to sit, they might not be reading the book by themselves, but they're looking at the pictures and they're able to sit correctly and read the book correctly and hold it correctly.
Right.
And so I see things like that. And then for my lower ones, going to do word work with the locks or the little spinning things, matching the letters. So
good. That's really good. Yeah. Do you check their sentences? Do they give them to you?
Yes. Usually I do it at the end of the week.
Yeah.
I'll kind of check, and then I'll bring them over to my table and say, hey, like, this was a really good sentence. Good job. Or we can talk about
what they forgot. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. That editing. Very good. So moving forward, think about maybe some goals. So you've done a great job in moving from, last year we had this, this struggle with classroom management. I don't want to say classroom management, but just getting routines and procedures. And so you've done a great job moving forward to that. So looking forward, what are some things that you think maybe tweak even more as a goal for yourself? What do you think, if you could look at today's lesson in small group and kind of look out at them and say, okay, maybe what are some things even for next year to just tweak and say, this is going to inform my instructional planning for next year, or my routines and procedures, or because every year is different, and next year's class may be totally different, and that might be a different beast. But looking forward, what do you think are some things to say, okay, I could even improve or tweak this even more?
I think my big thing would be organizing my small groups better, because I know you do a really good job with that. You have everything labeled and all the things, so I want to be able to do that. Like, I have my stuff ready, but it's like disorganized.
Yeah.
But I know where it's at.
Yeah, you do.
But I want it to be like all together, all like able to have everything in one place, and
ready to just kind of pull. Yeah. And that is a little difficult because we don't have necessarily a small group curriculum.
Yeah.
So we are having to, we have curriculum here and curriculum there that we can use, but it's not like it used to be when we had it in guided reading. So yeah, that's a great goal. So how could I support you in that goal? Like what can I do as...
I always benefit from going to observe you and what you do in your class, and not just you, just any veteran teachers too, but you're really good at your small group stuff because I've went there before, and then maybe even coming in one day and just
organizing.
Yeah,
I could absolutely help you organize. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, and so and I think a good thing to keep in mind is I organize the way I organize, but you don't feel free. And this is something that I learned early on as a teacher is like I thought that I had to do it the way that so-and-so organized it because I was like, oh, that's great. But then I learned that it doesn't necessarily work for me the way that she did it, that person did it. And so, and it might work for you the way that I do it, but feel free to make sure that it works for you in your instructional practices. That's my one piece of advice, is to make sure that when you are organizing your materials and your things, because you might use Saxon more than I do, or you might use the Haggerty books, because that, and it also changes from year to year, also depending on your students, and always be aware of the students in your classroom. Because they might need something different than this year. This. Remember last year your kids were so low, so they're not going to be reading those higher level Haggertys, and they may benefit from the Natalie Lynn's, the lower levels. And so you might have organized it like in one way, and you're like, oh no, And so that's my one piece of advice, is to make sure that however you choose to organize, that it works for you. And I'd be happy to come in and help you. However, and take a day and take a week, over the summer and help you. But overall, I think you did an amazing job. Like, obviously, you can see, like, I hit yes on everything. Like, you were prepared, you were organized. I thought you were organized because when the kids came over, you had your thing ready. And then you did the letters with them at the end. Your routines were great. Everything you did great. They were engaged. You checked for understanding several times. You were monitoring them, like you were like, hey, is that what you're supposed to be doing? And then you went right back to it, and he fixed it. Definitely tier 1 instruction, like to these little kids, you're giving them tier 1. They were aligned to our objective. Like, you definitely were using our curriculum. Our district goals were aligned. You had great relationships with your kids. They clearly love you. Great classroom culture, and they feel, like I said, they were taking risks. So I think you did great. I think you're going to continue to do great. So great job, Jordan.
Thank you.